Recording in
Welcome.
progress.
Good evening, everyone. I now call this special meeting of the Somerville City Council to order. In accordance with Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting of the City Council may be conducted via remote participation. Please note that video and audio of this meeting is being recorded and may be shown live on local access government channels and on the City of Somerville website and will be available for future review. Will the clerk please call the roll?
This is roll call. Councillor Mba. Councillor Wilson.
Present.
Councillor Ewan-Kempen.
Here.
Councillor Scott.
Present.
Councillor McLaughlin. Councillor Burnley.
Present.
Councillor Said.
Here.
Councillor Strezzo.
Here.
Councillor Klingon.
Present.
Councillor Davis.
Here.
Councillor Pineda-Neufeld.
Here.
With 10 councillors present and 1 absent, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Clerk. Pursuant to our Rule 32, let it be known that the City Council salutes the flag of the United States of America, and let us recall our oath to uphold the Constitution and the laws of the Commonwealth to the best of our abilities and understanding. We are here this evening, as you know, for the presentation of the FY26 budget. There are a few items we need to send to Finance first. So, Madam Clerk, will you read the first item? Why don't we...
Or take up 10-1 and then do the rest?
Let's do that. Let's take up 10-1.
Item 10.1 is a request of the mayor requesting the appropriation of $362,915,509 to fund the fiscal year 2026 general fund operating budget.
Madam Mayor.
Good evening. Before I begin tonight, I want to acknowledge the reports we received today that ICE has been active in Somerville. We are still looking into these reports, and my administration shares your deep concern. From everything we've seen and heard from the federal administration, particularly over the last few weeks, this seems to be a promise they're intending to keep. The important thing is that we're working together to prepare our residents with knowledge about their rights, and that our city and our school departments are ready with resources to assist individuals and families who have been impacted. Now I'll turn to our FY26 budget, but just wanted to thank all of you for your concerns and for your support for everyone in our community. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, esteemed colleagues on the City Council and School Committee, Council President Pineda-Neufeld, and School Committee Chair Alana Krepshin, Superintendent of Schools Ruben Carmona, Police Chief Benford, Fire Chief Breen, and community members and staff, both here and joining us online. If the past few years have shown us anything, it's that stability and progress are two sides of the same coin. And that's exactly what we've all been building here together over the years. So I'd like to ask first for all city and school staff to stand, and please join me in giving our staff a round of applause for their tremendous and tireless work that they do for our community. Please. I also want to thank all counselors and school committee members for all that you give of yourselves every day to listen to our residents, advocate for their needs, help shape a better Somerville. And I especially want to thank President Pineda-Neufeld. She will be leaving her post after this budget process concludes. Thank you, President, the City for your truly outstanding service, both as a leader during COVID, during the city's COVID emergency response, and then as a leader on our council. Please join me in applauding our dedicated council and school committee and President Neufeld. I'm happy to present the fiscal year 2026 operating budget that applies careful fiscal management to keep our core services intact, advance community goals, strengthen our schools. We achieved this despite the economic and political headwinds facing our nation and our city. This budget proves we can be fiscally disciplined and forward-looking. I'd like to thank the council for your attention to this proposal and your thoughtful deliberation. In many ways, this looks like a typical Somerville budget. It protects core services and advances priorities we've built together. But the reality behind it is anything but typical. We're navigating an especially challenging fiscal landscape, and this budget is built not just to deliver, but to endure, adapt, and keep us moving forward. Quality services and exciting new work will continue, but I want to be sure we all understand the new challenges we are working to overcome and prepare for. Costs are rising. Development is slowing. U.S. tariff policy is in constant flux. Federal funding to our cities and states is threatened if we don't abandon our values. Slashed federal budgets is also threatening key regional economic sectors. Inhumane immigration tactics targeting all immigrants, even permanent residents, is first and foremost hurting individuals, families, and our community. It is also hits our local businesses, our regional industries with workforce disruption and tourism declines. Even as we stand up for our rights in court, which the city and schools are doing, we must budget thoughtfully and in case we must absorb additional shocks. I want to zoom in on one of these points, the slowing new development. Due to the slowing of the commercial real estate sector and the additional economic pressures I just noted, our assessing staff are currently projecting $8 million in new growth next year, with further declines in the coming year. That's about $6 million less than last year. That is a reduction that we had to account for in the proposal before you. Across Massachusetts, municipalities are facing the same pressures. Many are responding to unstable landscape by cutting positions and scaling back services. Somerville is doing neither. Instead, we're strengthening staff and systems we've built together with each budget over the years. We've built a foundation of this and a range of management's best practices and sound financial practices. That includes strong fiscal management that has earned my administration a AAA bond rating for 3 years running, which saves taxpayers money. We maintain strategic reserves for emergencies and unexpected one-time costs. We're also investing in our workforce with game-changing union contracts and non-union wage adjustments. That addresses wage bias and keeps us competitive. We plan our goals and budgets for the long term so we can move intentionally and prepare for challenges. And finally, my administration has been scaling our organization. We are breaking down silos between teams so we can work smarter, more efficiently with our current resources. This year, we also took a number of strategic steps to balance the budget and still preserve our service levels to the community. The first is a 6-month hiring freeze on city staff for current unposted vacancies. This fall, after we know what our state aid amounts are, we will assess whether we can unlock the hiring freeze as of January 1, 2026. Next, we made reductions in what is called level service budget. That's 3 to 4% reductions to level services were made in nearly every city department. No such reduction were made on the school budget. For more savings, we identified alternative funding sources for general fund costs, such as the Marijuana Impact Fund or state grants. We also made a one-time $1.5 million reserve draw to fund teachers' collective bargaining agreements and to lift their starting salaries. Generally, reserves are best saved for emergencies and vital one-time expenses. We will work with the schools throughout the year to plan to absorb this expense into the regular budget next year. We also reduce cost of living increases for non-union staff. Our city non-union staff and our top pay grades will receive no cost of living increase for now. Union staff will receive a cost of living adjustment as per usual per their agreements. And finally, we're holding on making new large investments. Rather than, as noted, we are finding new ways to achieve more with the staff and the resources we have. I want to be clear what level service means. A level service budget means we are funding all existing programs and services at the funding amounts necessary to deliver them at this year's cost and demand levels. If the cost to provide senior programming, youth services, or field maintenance has gone up, we budget for those increased costs in level service, so we do raise the budget. What's different this year is the surgical cuts we made on the ordinary maintenance section of department budget. That's all the non-personnel expenses. Residents should not notice a difference. We're using creative workarounds and efficiencies to maintain services. You will still find your librarian at the desk, your street plows, and your recreation program on the calendar. What has not changed this year is that, above all, our budget is guided by our values. This is a budget designed in every way to create a thriving and equitable Somerville, a budget that builds on and strengthens our prior year investments, a budget that sets us up for success not only for next year but the years to come. I said this last year, and it bears repeating. My administration operates on the foundations of equity, inclusive leadership, transparency, and progress for all. When it comes to budgeting, that means building a fiscally sound budget that is driven by the needs and the aspirations that the community shares with us year-round. Every year, we gather input from residents and counselors through meetings, emails, 311 requests, social media, and more. We also analyze key data, like survey results, and our 120,000 plus annual 311 calls. We also crunch the real numbers and budget to get maximum impact on our shared goals. The priorities you've communicated were weighed and incorporated into last year's budget, and they continue to form the foundation of this year's proposal. This proposal funds both essential services like flood control, road improvements, and ADA improvements, and investments in community goals like housing, climate action, public safety for all, veterans programming, immigrant services, and more. With my first budget, I changed the process to bring the council into the strategic planning earlier. Thank you for sharing your FY26 priorities. We found real common ground around shared priorities like housing stability, prevention, paving, and composting. And this slide shows just a sampling of the progress we are working towards together and how they overlap with some of our guiding principles. In total, the operating expenses, investments, and obligation funded in this year's budget, city budget, totals $380.1 million. That's an $18 million increase over FY25. It's a 5%, this 5% increase gives us essentially level service that accounts for rising costs and inflation. As we did the previous 3 years, this year, once again, we supported greater relative investments in the schools as our first priority. It's important to note city and school budgets all come from the same pot of money. In total, the operating expenses and investments and obligation proposed in the FY school budget total $112.3 million. That's $7.8 million increase over FY '25. $5.6 million of that is included in the budget. $1.5 million is funding my administration set aside for that union contract, and $750,000 is being added from various school reserves. Together, the increase in total spending allows for continuing investments, set-aside funds, and a new teachers' union contract, and covering rising costs and inflation. With all our municipal spending combined, the school remains the largest area of proposed spending for the FY '26 budget, totaling 30% of all budgeted funds. It should be noted, in addition to that, there's about $36 million that is paid on the city side. So it's about $112 million plus $36 million. That's for pensions, that's for health insurance, buildings, and so forth. And that is also accounting for the funds officially on the school budget. There's a significant budget lines in the city budget for school buildings, maintenance, social services, youth programs, our collective schools, our city programs, summer promise, and more that takes the percentage higher. That's followed by pensions, benefit costs, and public safety, which includes police and fire. In my time as mayor, the school budget has grown by more than a third, and to be exact, that's 33.6% in only 40 years. In dollars, that translates to a current funding that's an additional $20 million higher than when I took office. Those dollars are delivering significant additional supports for our student educators and our entire SPS community. Beyond the school budget, this city budget also funds key youth, family, and school facility supports. From youth services to parks to early childhood program, recreation growth, and the development of our youth in the city budget as well. This expanded commitment in both budgets does limit what we can fund elsewhere, but we've worked to strike a balance that supports all of Somerville. I want to emphasize again that each year's budget is built upon the prior year's budget. The FY '26 budget bolsters all previous investments with inflation adjustments and limited tactical new investments so that these resources and current staff can continue to propel our community forward. While we're not adding new health and human services staff this year, we're building on the 12 new positions added since FY '22. And though the Office of Sustainability isn't growing this year, we've doubled its staff since FY '22 and expanded its resources. That team is well positioned to keep advancing our climate goals. Thanks again to the council for your support in getting us here. Now I want to dig into the good work to come in the FY '26 budget. Let's talk about an exciting shift in how we work. Just as we collaborate with community, we're strengthening our collaboration across city departments. We're bringing staff together to share ideas, align efforts, and form interdepartmental teams that can turn big ideas into real progress. By problem solving across departments and not just within distinct teams, we can better make use of untapped capacity among staff. We're breaking down the silos to better tap into the full talents of our staff. Team-based work now connects engineers with planners, public health nurses with youth workers, and IT staff with permitting teams. These collaborations boost efficiency and spark smarter solutions. We're also bringing teams together to identify underused resources and brainstorm creative ways to meet our core goals. Specifically, we've been focused on our strategic plan, the city's strategic plan, which is known as Somervisions, and the goals, and related areas you will all recognize. They include, in alphabetical order, climate and sustainability, commercial development, business and arts, community and governance, education, foundational city services, and housing, as well as infrastructure, mobility, modern, efficient, and transparent government, public health, public safety, and public space and natural environment. Great work is coming out of these brainstorms and problem-solving sessions, including the following initiatives we'll be working on in FY26, with staff and resources included in this budget proposal. For one, we are launching a permanent supportive housing working group to build on my administration's work over the last 2 years internally and with community providers like SCC and Somerville Homeless Coalition. Supportive housing pairs stable housing with vital services for residents experiencing chronic homelessness, helping people stay housed, connect with their community, and build more stable lives. Thanks to the recent innovations like my administration's municipal voucher program, flex funding for the Somerville Affordable Housing Trust Fund, the hotel, motel, and older adult bridge programs, and the guaranteed basic income. We're already making measurable progress fighting displacement, but there's also more to do, and supportive housing is a gap in our affordable housing ecosystem that we need to tackle. And I want to thank the council for also identifying supportive housing as a shared priority. Another interdepartmental team is focusing on improving emergency response. They're working to deliver next generation emergency vehicle preemption system, a technology that turns traffic lights green for first responders en route to emergencies. When seconds matter, this system saves lives. Even if you never need it, it benefits all of us. We already have basic versions in place. Now, staff from fire, engineering, mobility, IT, DPW, and grants are teaming up to bring the upgraded system citywide in FY26. It's a true team effort that one department couldn't do it alone. Our community urgently needs more recreational space for older adults, teens, toddlers, everyone in between. Whether it's directly for residents or via community surveys, all of us know that this is a top priority for our residents. We'd all prefer to build a state-of-the-art community center, and I'm determined to bolster our work on neighborhood teen centers as well, but we need space now. So we have transformed the Founders Rink into a recreational hub for all ages. It's a smart, cost-effective move to let us meet community needs now without waiting years or spending millions of dollars. With recreation at the core, departments including Youth Services, DPW, SPS, and our LGBTQ+, are brainstorming a variety of fun programming, everything from crafts to exercise within our existing budgets. To fully activate this space, we are requesting the council support $160,000 for temporary flooring. As federal climate funding shrinks, Somerville is doubling down on local action. We're mobilizing city staff to implement Climate Forward, our action plan for 77 strategies across 5 focus areas. We are all hands on deck, from OSPCD and parking to libraries and ADA, working to advance both geothermal energy pilots and decarbonization pilots in our community in FY26. Local solutions matter more than ever now, and this budget proposal supports this critical work. These are just a few highlights. In FY26, we also have teams advancing a more user-friendly business permitting system, a public safety for all goal set for our community, out-of-school time and teen employment programs, real-time tracking of all our new housing units, a new staff intranet and systems integration plan to improve internal service delivery. All of this builds on essential work we do every day, like maintaining buildings and parks, replacing water mains, and opening the new Assembly Fire Station. And across it all, we're staying grounded in the community's vision, advancing the goals of our strategic plan, Summer Vision 2040. Of course, we have plenty more packed in this budget. You'll find a balance of proposed funding for core services as well as program and services that directly advance our goals for progress for all. Key ideas to focus include that many goals on the next floor slides. These are just samples from across the budget. I won't list them all, but I encourage you to read them later and to look for them in the budget book. They range from affordable housing creation to the return of the Winter Warming Center, to increase to our translation and interpreting budgets, to new training for DPW crew. They include the resources and staff to advance our new K-8 school building project, launch our composting pilot for roughly 1,000 households, or to complete renovation on Dilboy and Somerville Junction parks, and finish construction of our new Ken Kelly Park. You'll find some more great new initiatives like the emergency management team's Comfort Dog program and expansion of youth servicing staff by using marijuana stab funds and public health vending machines. You'll also find good news, including that we're moving forward to establish the Armory as the first ever publicly owned arts center. Our new arts district is close to being official, and planning for the McGrath area will get underway. So again, I'm going to just click past the next 3 slides, but please take time to read them later. Looking back on last year's accomplishments, let's you know we mean business. We deliver on our goals. As our goals, there are too many to list here. But I do want to take a moment to elevate some key progress made. I encourage all of you to read all the details at your leisure. It's truly inspiring to see how much we've been able to achieve together. Staff worked hard to advance 976 housing units in our housing pipeline, launch a guaranteed basic income pilot serving 200 families in 1 year, conduct the second round of participatory budgeting, delivering outcomes that expand school programs and serve vulnerable community members. We published recommendations from Public Safety for All, Task Force, Civilian Oversight Task Force, and the Anti-Violence Working Group. And we're taking steps to start taking action they recommend. Staff have delivered over 130 Know Your Rights trainings and supported 700 students with food security via the Carrot Card program and mobile markets. We rolled out on-demand interpretation across 39 city departments and across 52 training sessions. We partnered with the City Council to finally move our proposed city charter to the state legislature. We celebrated our first Disability Pride flag raising, conducted dozens of interviews and focus groups to inform planning for a rental registry and energy disclosure. We also launched findings from our cultural capacity plan, youth service needs assessment, senior needs assessment, armory master plan, and pollinator action plan. And there's so much more, like partnering with MAPC to start work towards a cultural trust, a long-held goal I share with this council. And again, there are 4 slides of goals to peruse. They are just a sampling, but I encourage you to read them later, and I'll click through them now. With the budget proposal before you, we look forward to another year of serving our community with pride and excellence. My thanks go to our staff, our finance team who leads budget development, every department head who scrutinized their budget lines this year, and a city council for thoughtful oversight and values. And the residents whose questions and ideas make us better. Together, we are proving that Somerville can be both fiscally prudent, relentlessly compassionate, and in the coming years, we will be a city that maintains its footing and continues to climb. I look forward to the robust discussion during the upcoming hearings and to translating these dollars into daily improvements across our 4 square miles. Thank you.
I'll open it up for questions. Reminder that tonight's not the night for department-specific questions, but any questions you have for the mayor, happy to entertain those. Councilor Strezzo.
Thank you, Madam President, and to my colleagues. Really? I'm the first question? Really? I'm usually third up with budget questions. Anyhow, Madam President, through you to Madam Mayor, thank you for this, for all your hard work on this and everyone involved. Can you please elaborate on the public health vending machines plan that is upcoming?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I'm actually going to ask our Director of HHS, Karen Carroll.
Is that
go
including the
through-
emergency contraception machine?
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the question. The public health vending machines are a project that will be funded through our opiate funds. This has been underway for a while. As many of you know, we started with surveys of residents, constituents, persons who use drugs, their family members, to assess what we need and what the main needs of the community were. And the basic needs and public health, like life-saving supplies that will go into these came out again and again in the surveys. So at this point, we are now in the process of contracting with a vendor to install these public health vending machines. There'll be 2 initially, and the next step in this process is to further fine-tune what will go into those machines at this point. So we have a process underway with our prevention team to figure out what will specifically go in those. So there is likely to be some contraception, test strips, Narcan possibly, diapers. It can be a range of public health materials that will go inside that. And they will also have the ability to track data on the back end as products are used, so we can continually refine and pilot the project, evaluate it, and tweak the supplies. So I hope that answered your question.
Madam President, through you to our Director of Health and Human Services. A little bummed because I remember when you first started here, it was one of the first conversations we ever had was the concept of an emergency contraception machine, vending machines. So I'm a little sad that women, 51% of the population, were kind of sidetracked in that, or hopefully would have been right in line with any emergency supplies that are created with this, but maybe some other year. Unless, Madam President, through you, that is a priority as well, collaboratively with this, or is this just, as you said, further down the line?
Yeah, through the chair. As I said, we're in the process with a consultant of sort of fine-tuning what needs to go in that. And at this point, I think everything's on the table. And we need to talk to the community members and think about where these will be placed and who our target population is and what the needs are. But there certainly can be reproductive products in there, emergency contraceptive. I'm not sure about that. We're not at that point, but it's definitely some of public health vending machine means exactly that. It can be anything from life-saving, warming, extreme heat, extreme cold products to help people stay alive in the elements, to anything that the community needs it to be. So it's all part of this process that's underway. We recently hired a prevention director, Tina Lose, who's going to help oversee that process in the next few months. But as I said, the process for procuring these public health vending machines through opiate funds is underway and should be moving along. So we can report back on exactly what will be in them and how we handle that moving forward.
Madam President, through you to our director. Super. Thanks so much. One more question, if I may. Actually, to Madam President, to Madam Mayor. Quick thought, not a question, more of an rhetorical, but could the GBI, I know that the GBI Guaranteed Basic Income pilot program is winding down, and we've had the conversation in the Equity Committee. Quick thought on this, as it is winding down and ending, and I am worried about the anxiety and the future of the participants in the GBI program. Being used to having the $750 extra per month that will then just evaporate, would it, I want to suggest potentially to one of the departments that I see the council internship program on the table in the budget. Could members of the pilot program, in the spirit of upward mobility and eliminating generational poverty or poverty, just getting out of the cycle of poverty, could we offer opportunities for our GBI participating families to be part of the council internship program? And I want to also commend and thank you very much for including that council internship program on the budget. I see that, and thank you.
Thank you for the idea, Councilor.
Councilor Burnley.
Thank you, through the chair. Just quick question. On slide 11, as in response to council priorities, one of the things that was alluded to being in the budget, which the council has asked for several years, is alternative response. On another slide, it makes clear that the administration is moving forward to implementation of the Public Safety for All plan, which was followed through after we had a separate study regarding the police department and its operations. In that Public Safety for All survey, alternative response is not defined. Co-response is recommended. Alternative is not. These are not the same thing. So I'm just curious what is the alternative response that is being referenced on slide 11?
Thank you for, excuse me, Madam President, through you to the good counselor. As I understand it, that was the budget priority. I know it's one of yours, counselors, budget priorities. The recommendations that were released back in January and February included starting with, or the Public Safety for All, starting with a co-response program, building off the existing core program with the potential long-term goal of some sort of alternative response. So that was your budget priority. As the community came together in the Public Safety for All, they suggested this pathway forward. And yeah.
Just briefly on that, because I don't want to take all the credit. This is a priority that several counselors this year and in years past have put forward. I believe Councilor Davis also had as one of his priorities this year. I believe a few others did as well, but I can't remember all of them, unfortunately. I will just note again, co-response is definitionally not alternative response. It's distinct. It does not grow out of co-response, as co-response still requires the presence of an officer, which is definitionally not how alternative response works. But I'm happy to have a more elongated conversation about this during the budget meetings, but this is something that I noted, I don't know, the budget cycle of 2022, when this first was brought up on the council, that these are not the same thing, and I find it a little tiring that we're still conflating things that are antithetical to each other and in terms of definition.
Councilor Wilson.
Thanks, Madam President. I'll try to stay high level with this since we do have the option to dig in on departmental budgets here during the next month. Colleagues not on finance, you're going to be able to get your questions answered as well. Stay tuned for an email with instructions on how to do exactly that. Through you to the mayor, you mentioned in your presentation that staff at the higher grades are going without a cost of living adjustment. Do I have it right that we're doing 2% COLAs for grades 1 to 4 and 0, no COLA, for grades 5 and 6? Is that, generally the department heads, is that accurate?
So through you, Madam President, to the good counselor, what I said was that we have a hiring freeze until January. After we know what our state aid is going to be and closing out our books in the fall, we're going to reassess whether we unfreeze or whether revenues change. But at the moment, grades 1 through 4 get a 2%, correct, about a 2% increase, and staff who are at grades 5 and 6 are on hold right now.
Through the President to the Mayor, is it accurate that folks got this news just this afternoon via email?
Yes.
Madam President, I know it's a tight budget year. It seems like, relatively small savings might create a big risk of losing department heads. Some back-of-the-envelope math tells me 2% COLA for grades 5 and 6 would be around $120,000. Through the President to the Mayor or the Budget Director, does that sound like a good, decent ballpark number?
Thank you, Madam President. Mike Mastrobuoni, Budget Director. I don't have those numbers in front of me. It could be close. It could be more. I don't have those numbers in front of me. Sorry.
All right. Through the President, we'll trust the math here, a $120,000 gamble that our department heads won't take a salary freeze personally and leave. I'll say this afternoon and evening, I heard from a number of city staff who are concerned about this. It's not just the department heads, it's the staff below them who are worried about their bosses leaving potentially. So I would just urge the administration to reconsider this, and should there become funds available for reallocation, give those grade 5 and 6 folks a cost of living adjustment. Through the President to the Mayor, I see 28 of 142 DPW positions listed as vacant. It's basically 1 out of every 5 positions. When I talk to our DPW workers, I hear a lot of frustration with all the vacancies. We're all hopeful that the new contract with SMU Unit B is going to help with recruitment and retention. what's your administration doing to actively address the staffing crisis in DPW?
Our HR department is hiring. I mean, they're doing their job and everything to fill those positions.
All right, Madam President, through you to the mayor or the budget director, the proposed budget has a little north of $3.8 million going for salary contingency. Could you remind us which bargaining units are expected to reach new collective bargaining agreements in FY26 and the contract status of those bargaining units?
Matt? Oh.
Good evening, Matt Sergu, Labor Council, Council President, through you. We still have the police superior officers we hope to settle soon. We have SMEU Unit A, SMEU Unit D, and then who are still expired. And then we have the custodians, the school custodians contract that will be expiring in fiscal year 26. And then, in fact, all the SMEU contracts will be expiring in fiscal year 26. So we have a number of contracts up, and we have a number of contracts we settled this year.
Madam President, one final question through you to either the mayor or budget director. We anticipate then that $3.8 million to be sufficient to handle, given we could be talking about some significant retro pay and just the sheer number out there. We feel good about that number?
Madam President, through you, Councilor Wilson, I do. We have a good track record of budgeting this in the ballpark. It's a difficult thing to do. The reason it really ballooned, it's a pretty big reduction from last year. Settling SMEU, settling firefighters, settling patrol really takes a lot of the volume off of that object. So it's still pretty significant number, pretty significant amount of funds relative to years prior.
Yeah, Madam President, it's a big unknown, right? I guess it's in keeping with the theme of this year's budget of the unknowns out there. But I just want to name that as something that it's something to watch, I guess. Thank you,
Councilor Scott.
Oh, thank you, Madam President. I'm going to start off actually with a compliment for our budget director. Thank you, Director Mastramoni, for the PTS breakouts that appear to be on every department, and for already having Appendix B included. It's a welcome change. Through you to the mayor, Madam President, I just want to make sure I'm getting the math right here. Looking at your presentation, it looks like our city budget is up 5.6% from last year. Do I have that right? I'm dividing 18 million increase.
It's in the low fives.
Okay, all right, so we're in the right ballpark, all right. And doing the math here on slide 13, it looks like a 5% increase for the public schools budget.
Right now, it's 5.2% plus 1.5 million and another 750. Well, 750,000, so that's 2.25.
Certainly, there's use of stabilization funds, rainy day funds, other couch cushions. I understand that, but I'm talking about general fund direction. So at 5%, as I look through the budgets, and again, this is just my first scan. I'm sure we'll be getting into this deeper in Finance Committee. When I look at some of the real basic service delivery departments here, like the buildings department with a 2% increase, or the grounds department with a 5% increase, I'm just curious. I'm curious as to what it says about our priorities when some of those basic service delivery departments are not even rising to the level of our general, meaning pace with our budget increases. But the police department budget seems to be increasing almost 20% this year. And this, just off the top, I'm curious what your thought was there.
Well, this council and you, Counselor, just approved the contract for the officers, SPEA. As far as I understand, that's the increase.
Well, as the executive, you do determine staffing levels in these departments. You're
The increase to, excuse me.
Well, no, I understand that the police officers got a large raise in their contract, but there are departments that are losing positions.
Through you, Madam President, I'm not sure what I understand. The only increase to the police budget is the contract, the officer's contract that was signed and approved by this council.
All right.
We didn't add, ordinary, increases other than that, except for costs for regular services, level services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam President, I will just, that is going to be a number that sticks in my mind as we review many of these departments that are scraping and finding sacrifices to get by right now. Thank you.
Councilor Cleon.
Through you, Madam President, to Madam Mayor. I don't have any specific budgetary questions per se. I'll save that for the budget discussion in the coming weeks. I did have a question, though. One of the slides showed, and it sounds exciting to hear that you have these sort of different interdepartmental cross-communication sessions happening within the city to hopefully streamline certain things. My question is there a particular department or a particular individual that is heading up those efforts, or where does that effort lie, and
So through you, Madam President, thank you for the question. I mean, historically speaking in city government is things go up to the top, people talk, and then it comes back down. The idea is that we're crossing in teams. It's best management practices, so it depends what the initiative is. I had given some examples, but I would say one of our other examples are with our offices. Thank you for the water. You could tell I had a dry throat. Is that the team approaches what's the problem that needs to be solved, what is it that we're trying to move together, and they come together as a team to problem solve and then move it forward.
Great.
It's not one individual, it's a team approach.
Right, and through you, Madam President, but in order for those teams to get together, like who's leading those particular meetings, or is this a regular meeting situation, or is this, are you just talking about in general terms this is happening, or is there?
Madam President, thank you, Councilor Klingon, for the exciting opportunity to talk about something that I'm really passionate about. Huge thanks to Mayor's Office staff, huge thanks to Somerset staff, huge thanks to ARPA and the program managers, huge thanks to my staff, Addison and Megan, who worked as a team to develop this first off approach of how we think about making investments and making progress and monitoring that progress through the Summer Vision focus areas, right? So we had a series of 12 two-hour meetings this year as a sort of first start. It's a huge investment of time of all the awesome people that are standing behind me, and even ones that are not here, right? This is a lot of time that we spent. That core group helped create the architecture and the framework, but it was the staff that came together and identified their highest priority issue, their most pressing need as a group, rather than identifying it from an individual department perspective. So this is really cool stuff. It's something that we're learning, that we're growing for, but it's a way to sort of help us think about, in an era of limited resources, we've all sort of gotten used to having, I wouldn't call it unlimited, but very, very significant resources to spend each year. We want to be efficient, we want to be effective, we want to agree on the problem and agree on the solution. So this is a really cool thing that we did this year, and I'm looking forward to that growing as we move along.
Thank you. You sound like the CAO. That's all.
Excuse me, Madam President, I don't know if that was a dig, but I think it's uncalled for. There's a family emergency, and the CAO is not here tonight.
It doesn't sound like, it sounds like, through you, Madam President, it sounds like Mr. Mastrobuoni has been working on this, so it doesn't sound like it has anything to do with any particular presence this evening. I just was making a comment about how passionate he is about this particular project, and I think it's great.
Councilor Mba.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you to the mayor, thank you for being here and for your presentation. And also, I want to appreciate your staff for their hard work. I guess just wanted to piggyback from my colleague that this is directly to you, and how do you, or the city, is planning to address like employee morale, and equity as upper pay grades forgo cost of living adjustment while still expecting full service delivery? Like, how do you plan to, address how much, people will feel?
Through you, Madam President, I'm sorry, Councilor Mba, I didn't hear the end of what you said. Your voice was a little bit low. Sorry, could you speak up a little bit?
Sure, Madam Mayor, thank you. So I guess, how is the city addressing employee morale, and equity as upper pay grades forgo cost of living adjustments while still expecting full service delivery?
Why are they expecting full service
delivery? Yeah, they're still, are going to keep up with everything that they've been doing. And so, like, something's going to change. What is your strategy to be able to, like, post, like, these are your staff? I don't think that there's, like, there'll be some degree of excitement or happiness as they continue their work.
I think the question is about morale.
Yeah. So thank you. I would say when I first came on board, the first thing that we organized in my administration was a work task force that touched, Megan correctly, maybe 7 or 8 or 9 departments in the Work Better Task Force. Yes, and we talked about a salary, and we are working on that. We're phasing it in. Unfortunately, for example, on some things we weren't able to phase them in the past years. We've built on the work that we've done every year. We have we did do our wage compensation study. We made some adjustments there. And right now, we feel that employee morale is really important. Staff is really important. We are some of the things that we've done is I get the initials mixed up, the family, FMLA, which was instituted, which was very well received. Our EAP programs are very well received. We try to show our employees that we respect them and the work that they do. And we will look at salaries as we move forward in this budget season to make sure that we can cover everybody on our staff.
Thank you.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Madam President, and I appreciate the moment to collect my thoughts after that last exchange. Madam Mayor, I've thought about how to express this, and I hope you can understand where I'm coming from. As the executive, you set the staffing levels for these departments in conjunction, of course, with the department heads. But when I look at a nearly 20% increase to the police department budget, eliminating no positions, and juxtapose that with the elimination of 2 rental advocate positions in the Office of Housing Stability, I'm wondering what message that is sending.
Through you, Madam President, we have not eliminated 2 rental positions in the Office of Housing Stability.
Right now, my understanding, Madam President, is that those positions are set to go away at the end of June, at the end of the fiscal year, unless they are supplemented through a stabilization fund. In your budget book here, it indicates that they are proposed to be funded by a disbursement from the Racial and Social Justice Stabilization Fund.
Correct.
Those are vanishing from our sustained budget proposal and may, in fact, just go away at the end of June.
They are going to be funded out of our racial and social justice fund through the calendar, through FY26.
Yeah. Maybe this just goes in the same bucket as all the department head pay raises. I think I got the answer I'm going to get. Thank you, Madam President.
Madam President, if I may say, often and every year in our budget, there are positions that are funded through grants, and then we look to eventually bring them on, if need be, onto our general fund. We are continuing these positions. They're going to be taken, they're going to be funded through the Racial and Social Justice Fund.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Madam President. I wasn't looking to have a conversation about this, but when you mentioned grants, the grants department is getting a budget cut this year. There's actually a negative number on that budget. We are anticipating that is going to fill the gap without giving them the resources?
Madam President, if I may, very briefly, Councilor
Please.
Scott, through you, Madam President. With respect to the grants department, it's a small staff. There's a vacancy. We prorate vacancies to maximize opportunity cost. Generally, in nearly all cases, this is a level service budget. We're continuing to do the same things in fiscal 26 that we're doing in fiscal 25. And I would caution on, especially in small departments, equating dollars with service delivery. I feel extremely confident in my colleagues in grants development that with a 1 or 2 month reduction in the grant writer position that just became vacant, they'll still be able to do their job. We work with departments to identify the needs that they have, and we try and maximize with vacancies. So, I mean, I would just caution in using exact dollars to equate to service delivery. That's all. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Madam Mayor. We will send this on to Finance, Madam Clerk. Why don't we take a 10-minute recess before we discuss our school's budget, and then we'll come back at 8:13. Thank you.
Thank you.
sent to finance so we can take those up this budget season.
We will send those to finance. Thank you. Before we take up our next item, just note that Councilors Davis and Klingon are recused from the discussion of the school budget due to their spouse's employment. And with that, Madam Clerk, will you read the next item, please?
Item 10.5 is an officer's communication from the Superintendent of Schools conveying the school department budget approved by the school committee on May 28th, 2025.
Superintendent Carmona, welcome.
Great. Good evening, everyone. First of all, do we have the slides? Okay, excellent. So as you get them up, let me start by first, I want to start this meeting by expressing my deep gratitude to work in a district that truly supports all of our students, staff, and families, and strives for a budget process that is transparent, equitable, and in alignment with the strategic priorities. I want to acknowledge our highly engaged, thoughtful, and supportive school committee. You consistently put the needs of our students first and set policies that allow me and our incredible staff to thrive. And to talking about staff, we have our amazing staff here. We have our Pat Duret, who is our interim finance person. We have enrollment by Teresa Rodriguez, Ruth Santos in charge of family engagement. We have our amazing Chris Hoffman that is in a hybrid position with the city and the district. We have our chief financial operation, our chief personal operations, Karen Woodman, our chief of staff, Amara Nosike, and Paulina Metropolis, our director of Emily students. And I saw Liz Doncaster somewhere, but she's not here right now. I just wanted to recognize the incredible work that they do. I honestly, there's nothing that I do by myself that is not really vetted by them. So it's not to blame them, but it's just to say that everything that I do is a result of the amazing work. I also want to extend sincere thanks to all members of the City Council, including City Council President Judy Pineda Neufeld. Your steadfast support goes far beyond words. It is reflected in the meaningful investments you continue to make in our community. And to our students, families, staff, and community members, thank you for the honor and privilege of serving as your superintendent. Somerville is a community defined by its rich diversity, strong spirit of collaboration, and pursuit of excellence. I am truly grateful to be part of a place as unique and as uplifting as Somerville Public Schools. Next slide, please. With that, let's get into tonight's presentation. Yes, we are here to talk about a budget, and we all know that this conversation goes far beyond numbers. A well-designed budget reflects our mission and vision. That's what you will hear and see tonight, a mission and vision-driven budget. Here at SPS, we envision a student-centered learning community where every student, honoring the unique strengths and background, is empowered to thrive academically, socially, and emotionally through tailored supports and equitable access to opportunity. Next slide, please. My team and I have remained committed to our core values throughout this process. Despite various fiscal challenges we are facing, along with other districts across the state and country, with federal education funding at risk, rising costs, and significant inflation, we work creatively to navigate these challenges. Earlier this month, my team and I presented our proposed budget to the committee and the public. During our presentation, we heard directly from many community members. Their voices were clear and passionate, and they reinforced just how deeply our community cares about our schools. They also reminded us how important it is that we get this right. This budget that the school committee approved after thoughtful deliberation reflects our ability to overcome various obstacles while staying true to our core values as a district. This budget prioritizes the investments we have made in curriculum, special education, and maintaining staff levels in our district. As you're aware, much more needs to be done. It is stated in our strategic plan, strengthening our special education system and enhancing our MTSS system is a must. Improvements in these areas are underway in collaboration with several SPS departments and our SEU partners. As a superintendent, I am proud of the extensive community engagement that has shaped this process. We're grateful for the support and collaboration of department heads, school leaders, PTAs, SU leadership, and the broader community in reaching this point. This council has an important decision ahead, and I look forward to working together with you to finalize a budget that reflects our shared values and supports the future that we all strive to create. Next slide, please. In developing our budget, we are very intentional about aligning our priorities with our strategic plan. Our strategic plan was developed in partnership with the students, staff, and families. We received over 2,600 survey responses in 6 languages and hosted about 42 focus groups. Together, we came up with goals that serve as the foundation of our work and that have guided us in our budget process. As a reminder of our major goals are academic excellence, equity and access, wellness and joy, family and community engagement. The work that we do is in service of our students, and I want to take a moment to celebrate our students. So this data is for the last year's graduates, and we anticipate that we will see similar trends this year. I do want to know that the percent of students pursuing a post-secondary education has increased from 73% last year to 77% this year. So let's give a huge shout out to our college and career readiness team, our community educators, counselors, and support staff, and families as well. Thank you. Well, this is not an exhaustive list of our students' college acceptances and accomplishments. Some highlights include acceptances into several first-choice schools for students, including Boston University, Brown University, Boston College, Cornell University, Dartmouth College, Harvard, Northeastern, Penn, Yale, and many more. Next. Thank you. This slide provides a snapshot of our enrollment. As you can see, we have bounced back from the dip we experienced during the pandemic, and now our enrollment exceeds pre-pandemic levels. However, we have seen a 60% decrease in newcomers. We have a reason to believe that the dip was caused by a number of factors, including the cost of living in Somerville, and more recently, the current climate on the federal level that has had a pronounced impact on our Somerville community. I also would like to note a few other highlights. There's a new classroom being constructed at the Argenciano for incoming 5th grade students, an additional 6th grade section at the Kennedy due to space constraints for the class of 2032. In this next part of the presentation, we'll look deeper into the numbers and budget process. The budget development process is a year-round effort. It begins with a thorough review of current investments, followed by collaborative meetings with the school leaders, department heads, and other key stakeholders to understand the needs of students and staff. Our executive team then analyzes both qualitative and quantitative data to shape the budget proposals. Finally, we work closely with the school committee to review the proposals, ensuring it is both fiscally and responsible and supports high-quality education. There has been some uncertainty related to federal funding. This slide helps put things in perspective. You can see we anticipate over $3 million in federal support this coming year, as well as additional dollars from the state to support some of the unique work we do in adult education, vocational education, and early childhood education. Our non-salary budget proposal represents critical resources for our students and staff. Non-salary investments include curriculum, transportation for students with specialized needs, supplies for our world-class CTE program, technology, and much more. You can see here we are proposing an additional investment of just under $350,000. The bulk of our budget is devoted to paying our most important resource, our staff. We are fortunate to have an amazing staff, from our school administrators to our teachers and paraprofessionals and our central office team, who work tirelessly each day to keep our students safe and learning. This proposed budget represents an additional $5.3 million investment in our people, including cost of living, wage adjustments, and additional staff to make sure that we provide the best learning environment for our students. This is a complete list of the staff we're investing in for fiscal year 25-26. Just to highlight a few, we are investing in 3 additional resource teachers to ensure our students with special needs can access more direct support from their teachers and can thrive in their classrooms. We're also investing in additional ESL specialists at the East. We currently serve about 300 bilingual learners at East, and the current staffing level needs to keep pace with the growth in that population. And finally, we're excited to be investing in digital literacy and computer science. This is a teacher that we're adding to our roster to help our students better prepare for the future. On the left of this slide, you can see a breakdown of our various funding sources. These revenue sources are mostly stable year after year. The private, state, and federal grants are a projection. While we anticipate getting this match next year, we will have a clearer picture in the summer. The local appropriation budget consists of city revenue and a state Chapter 70 local aid for public schools. Chapter 70 local aid is used for the education of Somerville students, including our charter schools. And to sum up this slide, Somerville Public Schools cannot do the work of educating our students alone. The fact is our entire city and community has played a critical role. So once again, thank you all for your support, engagement, and collaboration. And that is the end of my presentation, and I know many of you had some very smart and interesting questions to share, so I am ready for your thoughts.
Thank you, Superintendent. Councilor Wilson, you're up first.
Thank you, Madam President. And through you to Superintendent Carmona, thank you and everyone here. We heard all about this. We got a lot of emails. A lot of people came out to us, people looking for a higher level of funding than the 5.2%. For those who weren't able to watch last week's key Finance and Facilities Subcommittee meeting, could you summarize, how you and your administration reached a level of comfort with that 5.2% increase, acknowledging what we heard earlier, that there are some other funding sources coming in as well? I think it'd be very helpful for everyone to hear about the journey to that point.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned level of comfort. I don't know if I summarized it as level of comfort, but the reality is that we work with the boundaries of what we are supposed to do the work. We also understand that there are fiscal constraints that are in place by the state and the federal government. So we did the best that we could with the budget that we have in front of us. The budget that we propose has met the needs of the district that we established in relationship with the past year. So we look at what are the increases that we have, both along the lines of staffing as well as the lines of operation. So those are basically what we propose meets those basic needs of the budget at this point. There are always ways in which we can strengthen the position of the budget, but again, we have to live within those boundaries of what has been given to us as a district.
Madam President, through you to Superintendent Carmona, since you mentioned there are things that you would always love to see invested in more, I'm curious, let's say we found a bunch of money in the sofa cushions. What would be something you would look to immediately spend that money on?
Yeah, so we currently are going through a negotiations process. So we are I know you are familiar with the fact that the mayor offered $1.5 million to a one-time investment to address the negotiations. So we are still working through that. We also have agreed through this process to address a couple of areas like special education. We're looking also at ways in which we reinforce our MTSS system. So, there's always ways that we can utilize resources, but we again, are trying to respond to the current needs as judiciously as possible.
Madam President, through you to the superintendent, I'm really glad to hear you mention both the ongoing negotiations. I'm not going to ask you any questions about that. I understand you can't discuss that here in open session. Also glad to hear special education mentioned in there. I will just say, given what we've heard about some of the, we'll say the initial offer and the, I believe was a 0.12% COLA for our most experienced educators, I'm really hoping that this $1.5 million allows us to not be talking about that sort of, I'll say insulting level of COLA for our most experienced educators. In the presentation you mentioned coaching as one of the investments. I know in the past you've talked about wanting to bring in a principal coach. And I'll credit you with, I've noticed some of your principal hires here have been phenomenal. The one at my kid's school, Sarah Wall at the Healy, has just been amazing. And I think it's the most consequential hire you can make for a school. So I think, I love the idea of coaching up our principals and focusing on that. Is that when you say, I don't know which slide it was, but when you talk about coaching, are these principal coaches or more student coaches?
Additional coaching staff. So there is a middle school coaching support that we have established by hiring some support staff that allows some release of time for teachers in middle school. We have models throughout at the high school as well, in which there are some release of time for teachers to do some support along that. We have coaches in the district. There's always a need for increasing coaching across the board, but again, that's somewhat of a priority that has taken a different category right now because of the other needs that we have. I just wanted to address the question about the percentage. You mentioned that there is a 0.0 percentage of increase that we propose. I think that that number is not that low. I think that number was being compared to a potential salary schedule that we put in place. So I think across the board, our proposal is not that low in terms of the COLA proposal. And again, we are going through that process at this point, so I cannot get into that. But it's overall, I think we're trying to provide a proposal to the SEU that is fair. So we're working on that.
Yeah, Madam President, I just want to thank the superintendent, the school committee, all the SPS staff here. For those who don't know, schools are the largest piece of the pie here in our budget. And it's just, it's reassuring to know we have you all working so hard on this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councilor Ian Kippen.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, thank you for saying that our questions are going to be smart and interesting. I actually have a big, dumb question. But first, I just wanted to thank you personally for the email that went out to the school community today. I was getting terrified texts all day that there was ice in Somerville. I got one from a resident I just wanted to read. Terrorizing children is a special kind of low. And the email that went out really quickly, I just thought that was really, really meant a lot to the community, so thank you for that. And also, before I ask my question, my 4-year-old is about to start pre-K this fall. So at our daycare on Highland Ave, all the parents are now getting ready to go to pre-K. And I just really cannot express how excited all the 100% of the Somerville families. They are so thrilled about their options, about every different part of the city represented. No one is saying oh, Somerville School. It's the furthest thing from that. Everyone is so excited to get their kids into pre-K, and that just reflects so well on everyone in the schools are just such a gem in the city. So in the mayor's presentation, one of the key things that it says in the public-facing intro, it says, what the public will see more after-school slots based on some of these investments. This has obviously been a priority for all of us year after year after year, and I know all of you. Can you just talk us through a little bit how that is going to happen? Obviously, we've made a lot of progress. We're still not at 100%. But what is being done to deliver that to the public?
Yeah, let me go back to the acknowledgement of the difficult situation we dealt with today. I think the fact that our students are being exposed to that level of trauma is unnecessary, cruel, and it really doesn't demonstrate a sense of supporting our community. The good thing is that within minutes of that, our team was thinking about ways to support our community. I know that through social media, the community came out, and it was very reassuring to see how well everyone was coalescing around that. So thank you for recognizing that. I also will say that I think the fact that most families are continue to be excited about the offering that happened in the district is a testament of what has happened in the past. Our early childhood program is very well known, is an exemplar in regards to early childhood. And so those are things that I cannot take the accolades for that. That's the systems that are in place and the investments that you have made in the past. The work that continues to happen in after-school program is one that, that the mayor provided at some point $500,000 to continue that support. We actually collaborate with Chris Hoffman, who is here out of Somerville, the work that happens with the Braided-funded work that happens. We continue to increase capacity. We brought a group called Apollo that is actually providing extra spots different places. I believe that we did that at the Argentina last year, and we are piloting another program at the Kennedy in this coming year. So I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that the program has increased significantly. I think we're bumping into the challenge that space is an issue right now. We are basically competing for the same real estate. And so the program continues to expand, but again, there are some limitations in terms of space and also recruitment of more folks who can do the work. Is there aside from that, Yeah, Apollo is the name of the new providers, right? So we have a new provider called Apollo, yeah.
Madam President, through you, thank you very much for that. And I'll just echo, what my colleague at large just said. We got hundreds of emails from people who, honestly, have probably never written to the City Council before about this year's budget. And I think it's really reassuring and inspiring that the city responded, in my opinion, robustly to that, this extra $1.5 million. I've also been told, if you think about the capital, the boiler at the Brown, things like that, these are additional serious investments that are going to the school population. And so, to everyone who was involved in that, thank you. And of course, thank you all for the really robust response.
Yeah. I agree. We don't pay for utilities. We don't pay for the kind of work that happens at the buildings. That's something that in comparison to my colleagues in other districts, that's a pain point that I don't have to deal with.
Councilor Scott.
Thank you, Madam President. And thank you again, Superintendent. I also want to echo the praise, both for the community response, for the school's response, and also for that email that went out. Very helpful. I'm going to ask some questions that are not interesting, but I really appreciate that you've got a great summary here showing what staff positions are being added and what staff positions are being eliminated. When I look at this, I see 7.5 roughly FTEs being cut from various places and about 17.5 being added. Am I reading that right, that ultimately the district is going to have 10 more employees?
That's correct. That's about right. 9 or 10, yeah.
Okay. That sounds good. I'm curious about what that means about union negotiations, but there was also a lot of talk about, there's a $5 million increase in the actual funding, but then there's different supplemental funding sources that's going to be directed to the schools, but most of that's not actually documented in slides. Could you maybe break that down again, because I know there's a stabilization fund injection. I know there's multiple sources. Maybe you can help explain one more time what the multiple sources of injections, one-time injections to the school budget are?
Yeah, so I know that there was a reference to what is the actual increase. So we have a 5.2% budget. What happened at some point is that we submitted a 5.8 budget, and in collaboration with the city, we were able to bring that budget lower to 5.2. That was, we used Makino-Vento monies that go directly to the city. They got sent to us. We also did some circuit breaker money that we get from the state, so we applied to that. We also utilized some revolving funds that help us bring the actual cost of the budget to 5.2.
Okay. But I mean, those circuit breaker funds we get every year.
That's correct, yeah. There was an increase in circuit breaker, and that's what we applied to that.
Yeah, okay. So what stabilization funds are being drawn down to?
So we also, in the, I think 3 or 4 administrators prior to me, there was a stabilization fund that was put in place to support the district with an emergency. That's still money that we have for emergencies, so that hasn't been fully enacted, this part of the process. But I know the city also, the 1.5 million that is coming is from the city's stabilization fund. So that's the money that the mayor has already announced. In terms of what the small reserves that we have, that's something that, again, has historically the city, the district has had, and we have been there for an emergency, and so.
Yeah, no, I think having a robust stabilization fund or a rainy day fund, if you will, is a great idea. Did you say how much was in that, or is in that right now?
It's $440,000.
$440,000.
Yeah.
Is that anticipated to be used this year?
So again, we are still trying to figure out what's the negotiation process. We are also addressing our special education, strengthening the model, MTSS and special education. Those are monies that best practices recommend not to use monies of that nature, because they will be warping your assessment of how much you really have, and so the next year you'll be dependent on you'll have a gap.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, the President. This is why I remain so focused on general funds and recurring funding sources and what's actually in the budget versus what is supplemental to it. I guess I'm just struck that our emergency fund is $440,000. There is consideration for using that to just cover a straight funding shortfall. And I am also very concerned when I look at that $3.2 million in federal funding that might be impounded at any moment, right? This is from a few slides previously,
Yeah,
I believe.
3.2 million, yeah.
At risk of impoundment. If we have too many more days like today, I wouldn't be shocked if that actually happens. Has there been discussion with the mayor or with the administration about what the backup plan is with only $400,000 in emergency funds available?
We have had, on a weekly basis, we meet to talk about what's the landscape of our finances. If you recall, the emergency that happened at the Winter Hill was something that it was a potential emergency that could have drawn those funds, and luckily the city basically intervened in that case. So they have made a commitment to support our needs in regards to those one-time emergencies. So the extent of that conversation has been that degree of like, what happens if we have an emergency, how will the city will support us. And so that has been a commitment that has been made in the past. I think that in terms of the potential money that we might lose from Title I, Title III, and Title IV, that is something that we still have to have a contingency plan. We haven't developed one yet, and that is definitely a potential challenge. But Title III, all the funds that support our multilingual learners is high risk. So that's close to $90,000.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate the thoughtful answer. It certainly gives me a lot to chew on. I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but the police department's getting a $3 million increase this year. So just interesting, unrelated fact. Thank you very much, Madam President. I think I'm all set.
Councillor Said.
Through you, Madam President, to our superintendent, thank you for the presentation tonight. I also want to thank you for your quick response today to the ICE activity. And I also want to thank all our colleagues on the school committee for all the hard work and the long hours this year discussing the budget. My first question is, so not in the presentation, the mayor's presentation tonight, but the previous one, the administration shared that there is potential risk that we'll lose 9.5 million federal funding that goes to the schools. Has there been any discussion about how to cover that in the event we lose 9.5 million?
Yeah, the potential risk is high. I know there is the 3.5 that I share with you. Is there a 9? Is there another number that you can think of? Yeah.
I think to get to...
This is Pat, by the way,
I'm sorry.
interim...
I'm Pat Durrett. I'm the interim CFO. Through the chair to you. I believe that figure would also include money for the food service program, and to get to that 9 million. And it's I mean, if the food service funding went away from the federal government, we'd have hard decisions to make. You know, we would have to perhaps look back at beginning to charge students for meals again, you know, and go through the process of, you know, free and reduced lunch applications. And I mean, it has been done, you know, in the past, and we were able to support the program doing that, but it's where we certainly would hate to step back from what we have now. Regarding the federal entitlement grants for schools, our Title I and the IDEA special ed grants, those grants sound as if they're pretty secure. I have heard, you know, Title III that for the English language learners, that's a very vulnerable grant. It's difficult to try to put together a budget based on these unknowns. So we're kind of taking what we know and going from there. But
I just was reminded. I was reminded that during one of our meetings, the feedback we got, or I guess the advice was that the city will provide, if those federal funds are gone, the city will provide support to the stabilization funds that the city has. So that is, I guess you could consider that as a kind of an emergency situation. So that's one way in which I believe that the city CFO has committed to support us.
Okay, through you, Madam President. So what I'm hearing is this is for all the 9.5 million the city has made the commitment to, or is it just like the 3.5?
So I think in terms of the total amount, we haven't had it hasn't been a conversation about the large amount, because usually what we have heard in terms of the potential loss on different categories have been different. Like, we never heard about food being the food being an issue. We knew that Title III might be a potential issue, so those are small amounts. So special education, we heard that was not a category that has been evolving, and so we have talked about the potential category of monies that are somewhat more vulnerable, and so in those conversations is what we have said. The city has said we'll support you with that.
Okay, through you, Madam President, glad to hear that there's a commitment from the administration to cover that, and obviously we're all hoping that we're not going to use the $4.5 million free lunch for free lunch, because that's really going to burden our families. And I also hope we'll have a conversation about alternative plans instead of just, as you shared, putting down the families that are already struggling, I'm sure. Thank you. My other question is regarding the extra $1.5 million that was added to the school budget last week. Can you tell us a little bit what would that cover? You said negotiations, but if you can elaborate on that.
Not really. I think that's $1.5 million that have been provided for us to negotiate with the SEU, and so there's not much I can say in terms of how we are trying to distribute that money based on the different priorities that the SEU has shared with us. So that's where we are. We just actually came in earlier this afternoon from a meeting trying to divvy up the 1.5 based on the priorities that have been shared with us by the SEU.
Yeah, through you, Madam President, thank you. Yeah, so you're still in negotiations, and we'll hear more about that. But I am thrilled to see that there is an additional $1.5 million. Because as my colleagues have shared, we have been hearing a lot from the families on the importance of covering the essential programs. My other question is, I think my colleague, Councillor Scott, asked about the proposed staffing reductions. So we have in the presentation the staff additions, but we have a separate attachment to this item on the agenda titled "Proposed Staffing Reductions." If you can put that on the screen, Madam Clerk, and if you could just tell us a little bit. I see a comment section under for certain positions, but not for others. So I'm reading from the sheet, paraprofessional, West Somerville Neighborhood School, nurse, 2 positions, nurses at the Healy. Yeah, if you just could tell us why.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, they are different in different categories. Part of the process, the budgeting process, is we go through budget collaboratives with every building, and so the principals bring their questions and concerns about positions that either have shifted or positions that need to be combined with other positions to have a replacement, if you will. So, you know, at the Healy, there was I think there's 17,000. Well, there's a couple of things here. There is the. Yeah, so there's a nursing, there's an extra nurse that we have, and there were 2 nurses at some point, so we actually had to decrease one. Do you want to? So there are a bunch of positions here that were eliminated.
I'm sorry, Superintendent. I'm going to interrupt you. We need quorum back, colleagues. Thank you, to continue our meeting. Thank you, Superintendent. Go ahead.
Do you want to talk about that? Would you like me to?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Karen Woods. I'm the Chief Personnel Officer for the district. So I'm happy to address some of the questions about the reduction in staffing. So I'm just going to kind of go one by one from background knowledge of and sitting through the budget collaborative process. So the reduction of a paraprofessional at the West is actually offset by the fact that we're adding a resource room teacher at the West. And so there's a trade-off there to add the teaching position. The nurse at the Healy was actually a vacant position, and it was really a floater that happened to be at the Healy, and it was no longer needed, and so that's the nursing cut. In terms of a library teacher, that is actually the trade-off with the digital literacy and computer science teacher. So we're trying a pilot where computer science will replace library for our middle grades in a few of our schools. At the Healy, the kindergarten and paraprofessional is actually the close of a classroom there based on configuration, but we're adding a grade 4 at the Healy. So it's just kind of shifts of enrollment to reflect at the Healy. And finally, the utility aide at the Winter Hill, the positions there are being converted to a different type of building support position that's going to be a Wildcat community engagement specialist as opposed to utility aides. I think that's all of them.
Thank you. To you, Madam President, thank you for that. And there's also a paraprofessional at the Healy.
That is the
teacher at
paraprofessional
SHS.
in the kindergarten classroom, so because the classroom is being closed, it's the same classroom. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Through you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Burnley.
Thank you, through the chair. Like some of my colleagues, I'm not going to ask anything particularly interesting or particularly smart. I'm going to ask just some basic questions. And I was going to hold off, but since we have the Chief Personnel Officer here, I thought I'd ask the first basic question I had, which was jumping off of Councilor Said's point, both on the sheet that shows which positions have been removed and on the sheet that says which positions have been added, enrollment is used as an example for, I think, 6 or 7 of them. So could you just, on the overall, could you just give me a sense of, is enrollment up, is it down, what is that looking like?
I'm going to defer to our Director of Enrollment.
Good evening, Dennis Rodriguez, Enrollment Director. Thank you. Through the chair, we have stable enrollment overall, but there have been different trends. For instance, the Healy did not have a full enrollment for its kindergarten class, but it does have a strand of specialized support for students who are learning English more formally. And so as those students transition out of that specialized support, they do want a seat usually at their school that they know and love. And so that's the reason why you might notice it now where the 3rd and 4th grade, once students have had a few years of being able to get that support there, we're now ready for general education. So that's sort of the change that we've seen at the Healy School. Similarly, at the Argenziano, there's a need for a new classroom space as we are trying to maintain those specialized sheltered English immersion classes, but also have the general education classes for newcomers can come to SEI 1 and the students who have advanced out of that. So we've noticed that kind of need, and in particular, the grade 6, we just had a larger cohort, what's coming in, and so that's why we didn't have enough space throughout the district for that class, and that was the need for additional classroom at the Kennedy that's been used. But overall, enrollment has been steady. I do want to make that note about the smaller number of newcomer students. I think that may be significant in the future, so overall enrollment has been strong. Our long-term enrollment study predicts a reduction based on things we talked about, the expense of living in Somerville, the number of births in Somerville. So that's a long-term trend that has been forecast, but slightly. They have a high, middle, and low. But we've seen steady enrollment, but in particular, those are the shifts that we've needed just because of student growth outside of specialized programs.
And you actually touched on my second question a bit. I'm always happy to hear more classrooms. I think that goes really well towards, I know, issues that you are currently negotiating, such as class size. And obviously we need space for these classrooms. And on that point, I guess, I'm curious, when you say that there's gonna be a new classroom in the Argenziano, what are we talking about exactly? Are we talking about like concrete walls classroom, or something like dividers, which happens sometimes when we're adding space for students that need it?
Yeah, so I am not the person to talk about the specific construction parts, but I was there for the walkthrough meeting with Principal Soto. That is an area that was a large atrium area that she felt was underutilized, and because she needed that, I believe that there are going to be permanent walls added. There'll still be, plenty of room for hallways and fire access and everything on that. I believe it's the second or third floor, kind of above the main office area where that atrium is, but that will provide her this flexible space to have the smaller sheltered English immersion class there and be able to maintain the general education classroom. So I think it will be a permanent classroom out of a more open area that was underutilized.
Yeah, that's a significant investment. It's not as simple as like adding walls and all the entire electrical, all the heating systems is next to the big window. So, and the atrium is the space that is barely utilized, and so it will serve the purpose of like providing a space for students, and also it's an area of like not much traffic anyway. So.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair, that's a relief. I know that oftentimes, not talking about this particular district in general, but I'll just say there is a trend oftentimes of classrooms being created by simple dividers and, the chaos of children being communicated throughout different classrooms because of the lack of permanent infrastructure. So it's really good to hear that we're putting that investment in, and it being an atrium, I'm imagining that it will have good lighting at the very least, and provide some well-needed quality of life. Now, Argenziano's I think a great school. We'd love to obviously have those kind of improvements or innovations throughout the district and other schools as well, such as the Healy and the future Winter Hill. But it's good to know that we're not cutting corners when we're talking about ensuring that both staff and students have the space and resources they need. So thank you.
Other questions? I'm seeing none. Thank you, Superintendent, for being here and for the presentation. Colleagues, that brings us to the end of the agenda. With that, Councilor Strezzo moves to adjourn. We're going to place this item on file before we adjourn. Any other items, Madam Clerk? There are no further items. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.